Hello YouTube. In August of 1945, after liberating Manchuria from the Japanese imperial occupation, the Soviet Red Army soldiers found a strange combat vehicle at one of the military facilities. It was an armored tank of an almost perfectly spherical shape, the size of which allowed one person to be placed inside. As it turned out, a 2-ton Kugelpanzer, in German, spherical tank, was brought from the Third Reich. The outlandish unit, the purpose of which is still not completely clear, is called the most unusual of all combat vehicles ever built. The Kugelpanzer looked so bizarre that the Red Army soldiers, who were fond of science fiction literature, could easily take it for an extraterrestrial or alien machine. You see, we had cool science fiction in the USSR in the 1920s and 1930s too. And top scientists who discussed possibilities of extraterrestrial civilizations and ancient aliens, well, we had them, and they published their views, and one day I'll tell you about their tremendously interesting ideas. Not all of them survived Stalin's purges, unfortunately, but we had people with dreams. Well, we also had people who loved to read science fiction books and scientific speculation magazines in the USSR. Okay, back to the tank. The smooth, welded hull had a thickness of 5 millimeters, the same as, for example, the shields covering artillery crews. The central cylinder was propped up from the sides by rotating hemispheres that served as wheels. So that they do not scroll in place, the designers provided them with protrusions, ground hooks. The stability of the spherical tank or ball tank was enhanced by a bracket attached to the back with a small wheel. See, there is a hypothesis that was used in steering the machine. The most interesting thing was found inside the armored sphere. There was a place equipped for the driver, who sat on a stool like it was like a saddle. A person had to see the area through a narrow slit at the eye level. The driver climbed into the Kugelpanzer through a hatch in the rear of the hull. Communication with the outside world was maintained through the FUG-2 radio station. The wheels of the spherical tank were driven by a motorcycle single-cylinder 2-stroke engine with a capacity of 25 horsepower. However, the strange machine was moving on a flat terrain at a snail's pace, only about 8 kilometers per hour. On the bumpy terrain, the armored sphere risked falling on its side. There were no weapons in the preserved machine, and the ones the Soviets got into their hands. It is assumed that the driver could shoot back with an MG-42 infantry machine gun. During the World War II, Kugelpanzer was not used on the fronts either in the Soviet Union or in Europe. Otherwise, the armored spheres of the Germans would have attracted attention. The documents and markings of the device that came to Japan were not kept or were deliberately destroyed, but many data indicate that the Kugelpanzer was made of one of the plants of the Krupp concern. The saved exhibit came out of the workshop in the 1930s. It is worth noting that the spherical tank cannot be considered an exclusive brainchild of the German engineers. Already at the dawn of the tank construction, the designers set a goal to fully protect the combat vehicle from all directions. And here the technical thought turned to a ball-like shape, a spherical shape. Bullets and shells were supposed to ricochet from it to the sides. It seemed to the engineers that the perfect shape provides increased cross-country ability. In addition, the hollow inside of the spherical tank had sufficient buoyancy not to sink in the water. Spherical tanks were designed in many countries of the world. In the same Germany, the first such project was proposed in 1905. Now, the Russian inventors did not lag behind either. For example, in 1915, a certain Ivan Semshishin sent to the Imperial Chancellery drawings of a giant armored egg, which he called Oboy, a machine for destroying fortresses. An epicycloid with a height of several hundred meters, according to the author, was supposed to roll on enemy fortresses, destroying them to the ground. Semshishin believed that the egg, driven by an unconventional flywheel, would develop a speed of up to 300 miles per hour. The eccentric designers, others, also flooded the authorities with similar projects in the 1920s and 1930s. For example, a spherical tank consisting of two ball shells was patented in 1930 by the Soviet inventor Zaitsev. But both in the USSR and in other countries, such projects remained only on paper. The reason is that excessive exotic thinking of the spherical tanks and just exotic state, and doubts about their technical characteristics. Against this background, the German Kugelpanzer is unique. It was not only built, but also delivered to the Allied country, Japan, allied to Nazi Germany. Several hypotheses were put forward regarding the scope of the armored sphere. For example, supporters of the existence of a secret Nazi base in Antarctica believed that the Kugelpanzer was intended to move along ice troughs. It is possible that the Japanese were going to put kamikaze drivers in the spherical tanks to deliver explosives to the enemy positions. And yet, after weighing all the facts, the researchers concluded that the Kugelpanzer is a light armored vehicle used as a mobile observation post to adjust artillery fire. It had to enter the danger zone, conduct surveillance, and return. While this account is told by the guides of the Armored Museum in Kubinka, where the only surviving copy of the Kugelpanzer is located. Of course, this theory has drawbacks. The spherical tank had too small a viewing area. It did not provide for special observation equipment. However, it is still difficult to offer more reasonable explanations. It is quite likely that the full set of equipment of the Kugelpanzer, in the presence of which all questions would have disappeared by themselves, well, that full set has not fallen into the Soviet hands. But the modern Russians will most likely find this equipment and much more, if they have not as yet. I have an idea where the spherical tank was delivered to by Nazi German submarines. Most likely just after the end of the World War II. Yes, I realize what I'm saying, but let's look at the place where the tank is located today first. The Kubinka Tank Museum, the Central Museum of Armored Arms and Technology, is a large military museum in Kubinka, Odintsovsky district, Moscow region. So if you travel to Moscow and you will be in the vicinity, you should come and see what's inside. Well, the tanks, armored vehicles, and other relevant information and objects, items are displayed and showcased. The museum consists of open-air and indoor permanent exhibitions of many famous tanks and armored vehicles from throughout the 20th century and the 21st century. Well, let's say between 1917 and the present day. It also houses and displays many unique, unusual, one-of-a-kind military vehicles, of which there are few remaining examples, such as the German Panzer VIII Maus super heavy tank, Troyanov's Object 279 Kotin heavy tank, the Karl Gerot heavy self-propelled artillery, and the Object 120 Su-152 Tarank tank destroyer, among other single or limited production prototypes from the USSR and Nazi Germany. Kubinka was a top-secret armored testing range and testing ground from before World War II. All new designs from Russian research and design bureaus, facilities and factories had to be first tested in that area. Also, Nazi German tanks and armored fighting vehicles that were either captured by Soviet troops or donated by the Western Allies were also tested in Kubinka. In 1945, the Soviet Union also tested captured Japanese tanks that were seized after the rapid Soviet invasion of Manchuria, South Sakhalin, the Kuril Islands, northern China, and northern Korea. Now, look please at my playlist, Matua. Look at my videos about this complicated and mysterious island in the Kuril Island chain. For some years now, it has been off limits to the civilians, and only the Russian army and military scientists operate there. They have much to discover, and the Imperial Japan was hiding items and equipment in the bowels of the island very well. The Americans wanted Matua as well, but Stalin offered to exchange it for the Aleut Islands, so Washington backed off. Nazi submarines delivered unknown cargo there, even after the Third Reich was crushed by Allies. We can only surmise what is hidden in the tunnels and underground fortifications. Some say, those who actually visited the island and did some research, okay? Some say dozens of floors below the surface. This is how long it extends on that strange volcanic island of Matua. Much more sinister things than the spherical tank, I bet. Much more powerful, much more advanced, and who knows if only those that were created on our planet. As you look through my videos, do not forget to see the one about the neighboring island of Rashua and the strange underwater ruins sighted in the cold waters of this sea. I love to describe the paranormal phenomena of the Russian Far East, Kamchatka, Chukotka, the Kuril Islands, Sakhalin. Please stay tuned for more videos. If you like my research, please subscribe to my channel and tell others. And if you can support it, you will find links in the description to this video. Thank you for your attention to my work.